Hi guys, welcome back for another video. I'm Jess and I'm one of the creative designers here at Sizzix. Today I have the brand new Stacey Park Collection, which comes with a very exciting addition to her emboss and diffuse range. So there is a new star-shaped emboss and diffuse element to the original ones that she's come out with. So we're going to get to play with that star as well as some of the corresponding stamp sets and some of her embossing folders as well from the collection. So if you want to see how this works and how you can make a gorgeous Christmas card, then keep on watching. Okay, so I'm going to use the new star shape from Stacey's new collection for the emboss and diffuse. And I'm also going to use some of her Revealz cardstock because I think if we use some of that and sand it back with the new, or one of the new embossing folders in her collection, I think it's going to look really, really good. So if I take a piece of her Revealz cardstock, I'm going to use this blue, but you could use any kind of colour. You can use the A6 ones, or you could trim down some of the A4s if you wanted to. And I'm going to use the embossing folder from the Rock the Dots set. So this actually comes with a stencil as well, but I'm just going to use the folder for this project. So we have the folder here. And I am going to give it a bit of a spritz at this point. It's not necessary to do so at this point, but just so we can get a really nice emboss. I'm going to do it that way, I think, and place that inside there. So we're then going to use the original emboss and diffuse piece that comes with the rectangle shape. So this is kind of like the starter kit, if you remember from her previous videos and her previous collections. So we use that as the base, and then we're going to place the star over the top. I'm going to have the star in the center, but you can have it at the top and you can move it down, and there's little notches, so it literally just clicks into place and stays there wherever you kind of want it in correspondence to your embossing folder design. We're then going to bring in our machine. So you just want 2 clear plates and sandwich that in between there. So we're going to roll that through like so. You can roll it back if you want to. I might do it actually. With embossing folders, we tend to roll them through twice anyway. And then we're going to take that star section off, and we have our embossed piece. Now it's kind of a little bit softer in the center where that star is, but we're going to make that even more prominent. So this is where the magic of the emboss and diffuse kind of sets come in. So again, we're going to take a little bit more water and just spritz that on both sides. So it's just literally water in a spray bottle, nothing special. Then I'm going to place that back into the starter kit piece, that main piece. And I'm going to place the star diffuser back on and place it back in the center. And then I'm going to kind of shimmy the cardstock so it's as central as kind of where it was originally when it was in the folder. We're then going to take our star and we're literally going to place that, just make sure that's all good. Place that in there, kind of like our shape stomper almost. And then we're going to sandwich that again with 2 clear plates. And this is what's going to really press down that shape and make it really easy for us to like stamp or anything on top. And I like to roll that through at least a couple of times just to make sure that's really firmly pressed down. So then you just want to remove that, take your star shape out, and then pull that off. And you have your star in there. So hopefully you can see that. So you can see the full design around here, and then you can see how it's actually completely flat in that star bit in the middle, so that we can stamp on top of it, do whatever we want to. With that kind of design in the center, which is really, really cool. So that is the emboss and diffuse kind of section. We can now, because it is a sandable Revealz cardstock, we can take our sanding block. So these are Stacey's sanding blocks, and just gently sand over the top. My cardstock is still a little bit damp, so ideally wait for this to kind of fully dry. And that's going to reveal that lighter blue shade underneath. And I thought it kind of looked like snowflakes, since we are going for a winter vibe. You can kind of like blow off the excess paper and residue as you go. And you can kind of sand it back as much or as little as you want. I think I'm quite happy with that. And don't worry about these little like water droplets or anything. Like I said, they'll dry, and you kind of want to wait for them to dry as well before we kind of move on ideally. I'm just going to grab and just take off the colour. There we go. Now we can also use some of her corresponding stamps. So she also has a stamp collection, usually with every shape of emboss and diffuse. So when we've had other shapes released in the past, there's usually a stamp set or a corresponding stamp set that also works with it as well, which is great. So I'm going to utilize the stamp set, which is the Creative Coordinations Holiday Bits and Bobs set. So I'm going to take that, and I'm going to use one of these kind of like ornate star shapes, as well as the little hanging detail, and then one of the sentiments, okay? Then I'm going to bring in my stencil and stamp tool. So this kind of ornate star, I'm going to do in like a similar blue colour, ever so slightly darker, one of Stacey's inks, because I don't want it to show up massively, because I'm actually going to stamp the sentiment over the top, but I wanted just a little extra detail in the star behind. So I'm going to use my stencil and stamp tool and one of Stacey's inks. This is Blue Raspberry. I'm going to ink that up, and then stamp that in that star shape that we flattened inside the emboss. I might go over that again actually, just to make sure it's nice and clear. I want it clear, but I want it to be subtle, if you know what I mean. Like so. I think that looks good. I'm pretty happy with that. And then I want to use the sentiment in the center. So I'm just going to arrange that as I like it, and then place this little bit over the top. I'm going to pick that up again with my stamp plate, but instead of using a coloured ink this time, I am going to use a clear embossing ink pad, and I'm actually going to use that to stamp. Okay, I tend to take these and go over them up a couple of times as well, particularly something like this little bow detail, but you might be able to see it ever so slightly. So we're just going to ink that up. And press that firmly down. I think maybe one more, just to be on the safe side. Okay. One thing I should have done before, which I haven't, is actually take a kind of emboss powder bag and gone over the design, and that would have made it way clearer. So you'll see from my example that I'd done previously, I've actually done that. So just bear that in mind, that I've missed out a step, but it's fine. So I'm going to take a silver embossing powder and sprinkle that over the top. And then you want to kind of dab off the excess, like so. And again, this is why you kind of want your design to fully dry, or you want to use the kind of embossed powder bag or something like that to get rid of any static, because that's going to give you a really nice clean stamp when you use embossing powder, because it can be a little bit temperamental. So we've just got rid of the excess, and then I'm going to bring in a silicone mat and my heat gun, and ideally on a low setting, just because it kind of works with the embossing powder a little bit better this way. And you want to apply heat to the embossing powder, and it should turn into a really nice shiny silver. Okay, so I've done that. You just want to make sure it's nice and cool before you carry on. I'm just going to place that there. And then I'll show you the one that I've done before, where I used the powder on before, and you've got that really clean, crisp embossed detail. So again, using that same stamp, and I've done that on a different colour as well. The only extra thing that I've done to this one as well is I've actually added a little bit of white glitter. So I said when I was sanding back the embossed detail that it kind of looked a little bit like snow. So I just took little blobs of glue on the occasional little dot and added some white glitter as well, just to add an extra little bit of sparkle, because I know Stacey loves the sparkle as well. So we have to add a little bit extra. So let's finish one of these off. I've got a little bit of kind of silver cardstock. I think it's this size that I want. Yeah. So I'm literally just going to take an adhesive roller. Actually, I'm going to do it on the back of this one, I think. Like so. Place that down. And then on my card front, just checking which one. I did like 2 different ones, so I'm checking which one I did it on. I think it was that one. Yeah, I think it looks good. I'm going to place that on there, like so, and you have a finished Christmas card. So we've obviously got that gorgeous embossed detail using her brand new Rot the Dots emboss folder, which has got that star shape, which we use the emboss and diffuse new star shape to do that with, and then the corresponding stamp set as well to add in the extra little details like the kind of decorative star and the sentiment as well. But like I said, you can definitely change up the colour using just a different coloured cardstock or something like that, or a different embossing folder. There's another embossing folder in Stacey's new collection, but she's also got other embossing folders. Sizzix, we've also got tons of embossing folders. Any A6 embossing folder will fit into the emboss and diffuse and work with that emboss and diffuse star shape. So you could use any kind of design that you wanted to, but then you can play it up with the corresponding stamp set as well to kind of get this finished look. I think it's super cute, super unique, and a really fun new technique that you guys can play with if you haven't done already, or just add the star to your collection and then you've got all the shapes you could possibly want. If you guys recreate this or you get your hands on any of Stacey's collection, then please do share your inspiration with us. We love to see it. Share it across all our socials, and I'm sure Stacey would love to see it as well. But that is it from me today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one, but until then, stay safe and keep crafting. Thanks. Bye.